let's cut straight to it. When the lights go out in the ultimate sense, when the biological machine that is your brain finally grinds to a halt, does the light of your consciousness, your essence, your you, simply flicker out like a blown-out candle? Or does it, as so many religions and spiritual beliefs would have us believe, ascend to some ethereal plane, continuing its journey unimpeded by the physical constraints of mortality? Today, we're going to explore why, from an atheist and scientific perspective, the answer is a resounding, and for some, perhaps a disheartening, yes, it flickers out. Because the truth is, your consciousness is not some ghost in the machine. It is the machine. For millennia, humans have grappled with the mystery of consciousness, the sheer richness of our inner lives, our thoughts, our emotions, our sense of self feels so real, so fundamental, that it's easy to imagine it existing independently of the squishy gray matter that houses it. This intuitive separation, this feeling that our mind is something more than our body, is something that philosophers and psychologists have explored extensively. As Iris Berent, a professor at Northeastern University, points out, the very question of whether consciousness originates from within or outside the body is often framed incorrectly. She argues that our deeply ingrained, and I'd add, evolutionarily and advantageous tendency to intuitively separate mind from body, what she calls intuitive dualism, can lead us astray. We perceive minds as distinct entities, and this perception can make consciousness seem inherently mysterious, when in reality, the difficulty may lie more in understanding the complex workings of the brain itself. Berent's research highlights this fascinating point. We tend to believe that consciousness and subjective experience are something separate from purely physical descriptions. When we encounter transformative experiences, we feel their significance, and we often instinctively believe our brains register them in a profound way. But here's the kicker. Our perception of consciousness as physical can actually shift depending on the scenario. This inconsistency, she suggests, points to our own psychological biases skewing our perception, rather than reflecting any actual inherent separation of mind from matter. Our own brains, in a way, are playing tricks on us, leading us to believe in a real mystery. Yeah, where the answer might be far more grounded. This dualistic thinking likely stems from evolutionary psychological biases. Our ancestors needed to quickly differentiate between agents, things that can act with intention, like a hungry lion or a potential mate, and inanimate objects. This primal ability to distinguish agents from non-agents primes us to view minds and bodies as distinct. It's a survival mechanism, but it can contribute to the persistent illusion that consciousness is somehow detached from our physical form. We're wired to look for a mind out there, separate from a body. Now, let's bring this back to scientific evidence, or rather, the lack of evidence for consciousness surviving death. The fundamental principle we operate under as atheists and skeptics is that the universe operates according to consistent natural laws. We don't need a divine manager for the cosmos. As our understanding has progressed, phenomena once attributed to supernatural forces, the original God of the gaps, have been explained through natural processes. Evolution, for instance, offers a powerful biological explanation for our existence and, importantly, for the origin of consciousness. Evolution implies that consciousness is a biological phenomenon, intricately tied to the physical body. It's a product of complex biological processes that have evolved over millions of years, driven by the demands of survival, reproduction, and social interaction. If consciousness is a product of the biological brain, then it logically follows that when that biological brain ceases to function, consciousness, as we know it, must also cease. I mean, think about it. We see powerful evidence of this brain-body connection every single day. Damage to the brain through injury, stroke, or disease doesn't just cause physical impairment. It profoundly alters personality, memories, cognitive abilities, and the very essence of who we are. Consider the case of Phineas Gage, the railroad worker who survived a metal rod piercing his skull. While he survived physically, his personality was dramatically altered. His friends described him as no longer being Gage. If consciousness, the core of our being, could exist independently of the brain, then damage to the brain shouldn't change who we are. But it does. This is a stark, undeniable illustration that our consciousness is inextricably linked to the physical integrity of our brain. If a minor injury can reshape our consciousness, it stands to reason that the complete cessation of brain function means the complete cessation of that consciousness. Now, I know what some of you might be thinking. What about those compelling stories of near-death experiences, otherwise known as NDEs? People report leaving their bodies, seeing bright lights, meeting deceased loved ones. It all sounds like powerful evidence for a consciousness that transcends the physical. It's true, NDEs are profound subjective experiences, and I want to be clear. I'm not dismissing the reality of the experience for the person going through it. These are often vividly remembered, deeply impactful, and can lead to lasting positive changes in people's lives. They can feel realer than real. Studies even show similarities between NDEs and certain types of epileptic seizures, or indeed what happens when a pilot experiences extreme G-forces, leading to a brief loss of consciousness. However, and this is a crucial distinction, the medical and scientific consensus leans heavily towards explaining these phenomena as complex biological processes occurring within a dying or stressed brain. When the heart stops, blood flow to the brain is severely compromised. This lack of oxygen can trigger a cascade of unusual neurological activity. Some research suggests that shortly after cardiac arrest, there can be a brief surge of brain activity. This might be the brain desperately trying to make sense of its rapidly deteriorating state, perhaps replaying memories or generating vivid sensory input. What some interpret as a glimpse into an afterlife, science is increasingly explaining as the brain's final, albeit chaotic, output. Imagine a computer experiencing a catastrophic system failure. It might display garbled text, bright flashes, or even attempt to save unfinished data. The output isn't a sign that the computer is now sentient and living in the cloud. It's a sign that it's breaking down. Studies hint at a surge in certain types of brainwaves, like gamma waves, during these critical moments. This could correlate with the feeling of intense awareness or hyperclarity reported by NDE survivors. The brain, in its fight or flight mode, might be going into an overdrive state, creating an intensely vivid, albeit internal, experience. But this is activity within the brain, not consciousness outside of it. The experience is generated by the dying brain, not by a disembodied soul. The desire to believe that consciousness survives death is deeply understandable. It offers solace in the face of grief, provides a framework for morality in many belief systems, and addresses a fundamental human fear of annihilation. But as seekers of truth, as atheists and skeptics, we must be willing to look at the evidence or lack thereof, without the comforting filters of wishful thinking. The scientific method, with its reliance on empirical evidence and testable phenomena, is our most reliable tool for understanding the universe. And when we apply this tool to the question of consciousness, the evidence points overwhelmingly to its biological basis. Our consciousness is a magnificent, emergent property of a complex biological organ, our brain. When that organ ceases to function, the emergent property it generates, our consciousness, also ceases. There is no scientific basis, no verifiable evidence to suggest otherwise. The universe doesn't require a supernatural explanation. The awe-inspiring complexity of life and consciousness can be understood through natural processes, without resorting to the God of the gaps. So, what does this mean for us? It means that this life, this consciousness, this experience of being you is precious and finite. It imbues our present existence with an incredible weight of significance. It means that the impact we have, the love we share, the knowledge we gain are all that truly endure, not as personal, conscious entities, but as legacies etched into the fabric of the world and the memories of others. This is the raw, unvarnished reality as we atheists and skeptics understand it. It's a viewpoint that places the weight of meaning squarely on our shoulders and on this life we have. It's a call to live fully, to cherish our connections, and to seek understanding through reason and evidence. But I'm always eager to hear your thoughts, your perspectives, and your nagging questions. What are your personal experiences or beliefs on consciousness and its potential survival after death? How do you reconcile the scientific evidence with the deeply felt human intuition of something more? Let me know in the comments below. Your insights are what make this community so vibrant. In concluding today, I would like to say if you enjoy this podcast and you'd like to support it, please consider making a donation at the very low price of $3 a month by going to my Patreon and becoming a member. Every dollar helps. The link is in the description below. So thank you for joining me on the Kim McPhail podcast. Until next time, keep questioning, keep seeking, and keep living. Thanks for watching. Remember to like, subscribe, and share so you don't miss a thing. Look forward to the next time we talk.